is here. Does Felix? We are live.
Really? So it doesn't look live over here for me, but that's okay. Hi, everybody. This is Mahabeli from Cairo, Egypt, and we are live. We're doing a pre-conference session about Digital Pedagogy Lab UK. So we're here for people to ask questions about how the lab goes. You can ask about the UK version, or I guess the US version if you like. Our guests today, who are not in the conference yet because the conference is still in April, are Sean and Sherry. I'll ask them to introduce themselves real quick, and then I'll ask our participants to introduce themselves real quick, and then we'll start asking Sean and Sherry some questions. So you guys go ahead.
Okay, I'll start. I'm Sherry Spelitz, and I am at home in Vienna, Austria, and I will be teaching the digital identity track at DPL UK in April. And I'm very excited. The DPL UK is a 3-day track. It's a 3-day track, so it's a little bit shorter than the summer version. But I'm incredibly thrilled and honored to be able to offer that. So yeah, that's who I am.
And I'm Sean Michael Morris, and I'm the director of Digital Pedagogy Lab. And so I'm sort of in charge of making the whole the whole lab run. I'm actually really excited for the DPL UK event, because it's going to be, I mean, it's relatively unique. We've done 3-day events before, but this one is we have a few more courses, and we have access to an audience that we've never had really access to before, because we're going to be close to we're going to be on the other side of the Atlantic, which would be really cool. So I'm very excited about it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Okay, so folks are still coming in. I was trying to do like alphabetical introductions, but people are coming in the middle of the alphabet all the time. So for now, I'll go with whatever is we have right here. And I didn't actually do it right because I think I put Autumn earlier than the other A's. But I'll let Autumn start anyway, and then maybe Anna, Amy, Alan, whatever, almost. LMNOP. So Alan, yeah. And then Anna, but I'll let Autumn go first.
And it's in the chat if you get confused. Hi, everybody. My name is Autumn Keynes, and I am an instructional designer at the University of Michigan Dearborn. I'm also a co-director of Virtually Connecting, and I'm super excited about DigPed Lab UK, and I'm excited to be here with all of you. And I think I'm passing things over to Alan. Alan, I think you're next.
Okay, I'm really confused. I'm Alan Levine from the Home Kitchen in Moorhead, Saskatchewan. Actually, never been to DPL, just kind of a fan of all the people here, and just wanted to hear what was going on. And we'll have to see if they can do critical pedagogy on the other side of the road.
Hi everyone, I'm Amy. I'm from Edinburgh, and I'm an online learning consultant.
Anna? I think your mic is working, but you're not talking. Anna?
Hi, everyone. I'm Anna Christina. Yes, you can hear me. Great. I'm based in Finland. I teach English to professionals online and also teach English for academic purposes. And this is my first time I'm in a live session here with you. But I've been following you all for years. There.
So good to have you. So somewhere between Rissa and Christian, there's a C.
Okay. You want to go first, Christian, or you want me to go? Okay. My name is Clarissa Sorensen-Unruh, and I'm in sunny Albuquerque right now, Albuquerque, New Mexico, where it is 10 a.m. And I teach at Central New Mexico Community College, and I am going to be DPL faculty for the first time in 2020. So that's not UK, but it's good. And I'm just excited to be here. So yay!
Well, hi everyone, I'm Christian. Just mentioned earlier that this is my first virtually connecting session since I moved from Hamburg to Berlin. I'm the Education and Science Advisor to Wikimedia Deutschland, as we like to say, or Wikimedia Germany. Also a freelance consultant and a virtually connecting co-director with a BC mug that is right here. And partnering in my shirt look with Alan, I believe. So I think I'm in good company. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I should have worn the shirt. Okay, Debbie, your turn, I think.
Can you hear me? Okay. That was really funny. You all nodded in unison. Hi everyone, I'm Debbie Bath and I'm the new membership manager for ALT, or at least I am since the last 3 months. And prior to that, I was working at Swansea University in the UK as a senior academic developer. But I'm so excited to be working for ALT. And that's not just because Chair is here. I can see her smiling at me. I am really excited and I love virtually connecting. And I'm really, really thrilled to be part of this and to find out what's going on with the digital pedagogy kind of stuff. So yeah, can't wait. Really good. And I've got a virtually connecting sticker somewhere and I was just frantically looking for it and I can't find it. It is here.
Virtually Connecting loves you too, Deb. And we love ALT actually, as much as we love DigPed Lab. So. Yeah. So Irene, and we love Emerge Africa. So Irene, your turn. Can you unmute?
Hi everyone. Thank you. How do I get the mug?
You participate in enough sessions and you meet me face to face. Those are the requirements.
Is that it? No, I have. Irene Maweo. From Emerge. Well, I'm from Kenya. I'm Emerge Africa member. I do quite a few things with Emerge. I'm kind of responsible for their social media. So when you see it going so crazy, sometimes it's me who is online. And I also do, I facilitate online course that I've been doing for almost 5 years now. So that's what I do apart from, amongst other things that I do in my life. But I'm so happy to be here. I met a few of you in the last time, but it was, I think, 2 a.m. in Kenya. So I was half asleep and half awake, but now I'm awake because it's only 8. So thank you, everybody. And on to the other I on a H.
I guess Natalie, is that right? You want to unmute first?
Yes, sorry. Hi, everyone. This is my first session and it was my colleague Emma that spotted this and I thought, I need to attend, but I'm going to have to just tune out for a second because I've got to go and deal with an email from an academic to one of my colleagues and give a bit of advice. So excuse me, and I will be back hopefully in 5 minutes. But really excited to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. All right, then Rosemary and then Sheila, and then we'll start the conference. And Sheila, you can actually ask your question at the end of your introduction.
Hi, I'm Rosemary McKilwin. I currently work at Heriot-Watt University, and this is my first time joining one of these conversations too, for properly anyway.
Well, hi everybody, I'm Sheila McNeil. I'm in Glasgow in Scotland, and I have been to quite a few virtually connecting sessions. Like everybody else, I love virtually connecting. I was a senior lecturer in academic development till earlier on this year, and I had a bit of a change in my work-life balance. So I'm now an independent consultant working with a number of universities across the UK. And I'm also an artist. You can see some of my stuff behind me there. But I am really thrilled that Digital Pedagogy Lab is going to be in the UK. And I have registered and I can go because I've been to a few virtually connecting sessions at the lab before. And it's kind of been a mix of curiosity and slight wonder about, I can see that there's always amazing things happening. And I was just saying to Maha and Sherry before we started there, it's like there's a really engaged conversation that we're having in virtually connecting, but you just know that you're only skimming the surface of what's actually happening there. So I guess as a total newbie, I'm really curious as to maybe getting some information about kind of expectations as me coming along as a participant. what do I need to do? How can I make the most of it? What happens? Is there initiation? You know, should I be worried about things? Do I really need to have a sticker and a mug before I can really get in? So anything that you can tell me about that would be really helpful.
That's wonderful. And now there will have to be an initiation. I've never thought of that before, but now, of course, we have to do one. No, I mean, actually, the expectations of participants are just to join in whatever way they feel most comfortable. We actually really try very much to create an air of hospitality at the event, so that you are welcome to participate at whatever level you. So some people will have, you know, they'll be in their cohort, and there'll be talkers, or there won't be talkers, or whatever. But we also allow for, I mean, all the instructors allow for people to take time on their own, to leave the class if they need to in the middle of things, and just get some time to themselves, to journal, to write, to think, to reflect, to just get some quiet, whatever they need. So we try to run it very much like a kind of like a camp. So you're there to enjoy yourself, and to learn, and to collaborate, and to meet new people. And to expectations are actually just come in and do what you need to do while you're there. So the event is run on a cohort basis. So you join a single cohort for the entire time. So for 3 days, you'll just be with one group of people generally. We will have some workshops and things in the afternoon on the Tuesday. So people will break out and go to workshops and things that afternoon. But generally, you're just in that one group of people, kind of diving in deeply and intensely, especially on the 3-day that's really intense, on whatever subject you've chosen. And then you just get to know those folks really, really well, and you do some really good work in that period of time. And then you're sad to go home. That's that's generally how it works.
Sounds perfect. So I can't wait.
Sherry, you're teaching a track this year. Can you tell us a little bit more about your track, and maybe a little bit about your experience when you were a participant before?
Okay. It's interesting to think about it, because for me, this transition from virtually connecting and sort of watching from the outside to participating to leading a track has been really pretty truncated. So it's been a very quick transitions between those roles, and so part of that, I think my as when I led the track over the summer, I found that I was very much in a participant kind of mode. That yes, I was designing a course, but I was also thinking very much in what is it like to be in this group, and what would I want? What kind of things would I want? And so for me, I think I was thinking a lot about how do I create space for participants to bring in their expertise, that it's not about me delivering as much as it is, let me think about how do I create space for us to think together about digital identity. And so what I found in this summer was, in fact, that the first issue of digital identity was we spent a good day just raising questions, just raising questions and finding out the sort of diversity of questions and wrestling with those. So I found that it was what was maybe most positive was just that it stayed emergent, that it wasn't set in stone. I had some basic ideas. Okay, I think we're going to do these things, but then I found, oh wait, this looks like it maybe needs to go a different way, or this person seems like they might want to do this. So let's open the floor for that. So I think it's a lot about being flexible and being open, and not cutting off possibilities prematurely.
I'll agree about that flexibility point. When we had Digital Pedagogy Lab in Cairo, folks asked at some point for more hands-on stuff, and so people tried to integrate more hands-on stuff. When I was facilitating my own track in the US, I thought maybe I had to integrate hands-on stuff, and I was doing it with Kate Bowles. But the group we had didn't want that. They just wanted to talk and talk and talk. And so we just went with whatever they wanted, I think. So, does anyone have questions? Rissa wanted to say something about her experience as a learner as well. Go ahead. Didn't mean to say something dialogue worthy.
I was trying to be quiet. So I thought it was a wonderful experience. It was really a good experience. I think Sherry is exactly right on in terms of how we approach it as faculty. And in fact, I'm thinking of being a DPL faculty as opening the playground of my mind. Like, I can be a teacher in very different ways. I teach chemistry and statistics, and I can be a very different teacher as part of DPL than I am on a regular basis. And that really is exciting, and it allows me to be emergent and think up things, but at the same time, I want to be completely emergent in the midst of the session itself. And so I think Sherry was right on. I think that's all I'm going to say.
Sean, I'm not sure if you can see the question in the chat. So Amy was asking, as a complete outsider, can you give a very quick summary of what it is and why it got involved? Because yeah, like a third of the people in the room know what it is, but
Sure.
Others want to know more.
Yeah. So as I described a little bit before, that it's a cohort-based sort of event. So you're in with a group of people for the full 3 days. The event itself is based in theories of foundations of critical pedagogy and critical digital pedagogy. So what we're doing there, as Sherry alluded to, as Rissa alluded to, is we are really there to ask a lot of questions. The basis for our pedagogy is inquiry. So we don't set it up so that you're there to learn from experts. We set it up so that you're there to learn from each other, to share what you already know. And then your course is facilitated by someone who has a particular history or background in the area and has some good ideas to play with. So as Sherry and Rissa both said, the courses are really emergent. I always tell faculty, first, I apologize because I cannot possibly pay them enough for the work that they do. But then I also let them know, like, go ahead and draft some idea of what your first day is going to be like, and then plan on when you go home that night to rewrite your second day, and then to rewrite your third day the second night. Because you're going to just continually do that as you learn from the participants what they need, what they already know, what direction your course is actually going. So there aren't sort of learning objectives, if you will. There's not a sort of sense of this is what you're going to get, because what you're going to get emerges from the group you're with. That said, there's also opportunities to do, we have some people who took the opportunity to present, who will be there presenting sort of lightning talks and workshops and that sort of thing. So those will have sort of more solid outcomes. And there is definitely teachers, and Sherry can speak to this a little bit more, and Maha as well can speak to this a little bit more, but teachers do have an idea for like the end of the story, if you will. So we think of the courses at DPL as more of a narrative. So you have a beginning of the story and the end of the story. And the students help, or the participants help tell that story as it goes along. But teachers do have an idea for what the end looks like. And often
did Sean freeze for everyone or just?
Yes. I think we are having a little bit of connectivity issue with Sean.
Okay. I think what I'll do is I'll answer a question that Amy had in the chat. So she was saying, is it important to come with a course in mind to create and develop? Oh, Sean, you cut off for a second.
Oh, I did. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So where did I leave? What did you say, Maha? I'm sorry.
I was going to answer Amy's question, but I can't remember what you were saying. So I'll answer a question real quick because it's a quick one to answer. She was asking if it's important to come with a course in mind to create and develop rather than development or understanding of the theory. You don't need to come up with anything but yourself, I would say, and your willingness to open your mind and just have these discussions with other people. Usually facilitators will start off with trying to make you comfortable with the environment and people around you, especially if you're not part of the group and you've never met these people before. The facilitators will hopefully help you get to know each other and start feeling comfortable to have these critical conversations. You don't have to necessarily have a particular project or course or something that you want to do. And I think there's sometimes a diversity of people in the group where somebody might be K-12, somebody might be a university professor, somebody else might be a librarian, right? And all these combinations of people that just enrich the session, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's any particular tracks, because Sean, we didn't say which tracks there were, because that will also make a difference, I think, how what the track topic is, and then what the facilitators have put about it ahead of time. So maybe you want to describe the tracks and who's teaching what.
Yeah, sure. So just for everyone's information, you can actually look at the site at digitalpedagogylab.com, and then there's a little click. You can click to DPL UK. The courses that we're offering next or in the UK are I'm offering a course on critical pedagogy and online design. So it's all about applying critical pedagogy principles to online design challenges. So whether that's fully online courses or that's online elements of a course, we'll be working with that. We have a course called Reimagining Assessment, which is being taught by Naomi Latour out of Warwick University. And she's going to be looking at different ways of thinking about assessments, which in the States we refer to as assignments, but she calls them assessments. So it's basically about the final product that a student might create. So she does a lot of really imaginative work around assessment. We have opening education, which is all about open education. We have Sherry teaching digital identity. We have a course on introduction to digital pedagogy, and then we have a pretty unique course called Emotion in Teaching and Learning, which is being taught by Lucy Ray out of the Open University. And that's really going to sort of delve into the place of emotion and sort of the affective side of teaching and learning. One thing I wanted to say to follow up on what Maha was saying was that while yes, it's not really necessary for you to bring a certain project that you want to work on, usually what will happen prior to, once you enroll and prior to actually attending, you'll receive an email from your instructor about sort of how to prepare for the course. So if there is some kind of particular project that you might be working on, your instructor will let you know that's coming. There are also recommended readings on each of the course descriptions. There's recommended readings, and those can give you a sort of an idea of the background of what you'll be talking about during those 3 days and what kind of work might come up during that time.
I want to jump in for a second really quickly about this idea of coming with some kind of idea or project or course that you're wanting to build on, because I had an experience when I was with a different institution where a group of us actually went to a DPL with this idea of, there was like a campus-wide initiative that we were trying to bring in, and just having the space to brainstorm and to think about that idea. We did work beforehand to think about what it is that we were going to focus on. So like some of the folks in our group knew that we were trying to tell a story, and one of the tracks that time was digital storytelling. So we had some folks in the digital storytelling, and we did some work beforehand to think about it, but just having that space to be able to hear from other people at other institutions, think about our project and kind of work through things. I think you can come with a specific project in mind and you can get a lot from DPL, but yeah, I don't know if it's not like the courses are structured to work you through a particular project, but I do think it really can help you think through a project if you're coming and you're bringing that.
There is actually a lot of, at DPL, there's a lot of, I guess, to get back to that question of expectation, Sheila, there is a kind of at least for right now, we're still working on the pedagogy of the event so that we can sort of work this out a little bit better. But for right now, there's a kind of an onus on the participant to figure out how what they're learning there applies to their work, because the courses are so diverse in terms of who attends. So we have instructional designers, we have instructors, teachers, faculty, part-time faculty, students, grad students. I mean, you'll have librarians, all kinds of folks who are attending a single course. We tend to we do emphasize theory a lot, and then get to some practical pieces. But ultimately, when you leave, what you take with you and how you go back to your world, to your home, is kind of in your hands. We definitely believe in sort of your own agency to take what you learn there and move it into your professional life. We don't emphasize things like best practices because we know that those don't apply in every case. So rather than sort of load you up with do this and it will work, we actually try to say, what if this and what if this, and how do you ask the right questions to figure out what works? So those are sort of that is sort of an expectation I think that you could come with. We do have one participant this year, Kate Malloy, who is also a Virtually Connecting regular, I believe, who's going to be attending and doing a workshop on pragmatic. I don't remember what it's called. I'm sorry. It's like pragmatic pedagogy, basically the idea of how do we take what we're doing here and apply it where we're going. So she's actually going to be providing a workshop on that while we're there. So that'll be available. And then there was a question, I just want to address this just so that anyone who's watching can hear this as well. There was a question about the price. And we do have a variety of prices at the event. Right now we're in early bird until January 12th. So the regular rate is $450. These are US dollars. We run it on US dollars because we're in the US. And so it's $450 for regular. We do have a support rate for people who don't have support from their institutions, who are part-time faculty, who are students or grad students. Anyone who really needs it can take advantage of that support rate. And that's $250 for the 3 days. And then for groups who might be attending from an institution, it's $400 per person. So a group is about 5 people from a single institution. And then they can come in for $400 per person. So they get a little discount there too. We do find that, as Autumn was talking about, we do find that having groups attend is really, really, really beneficial for the people who participate, but also for when they go back to their institution, they all go back with that information together. But we also find that during the event, they actually tend to have a richer experience because they have their colleagues with them to really explore ideas more deeply.
So I think Debbie had a question. And I just want to explain what you mean by what if you can't choose a particular track? Is it because they're all so good or because the ones you want is full? Unmute so we can hear you.
Sorry. Yeah, it was just that because I've not been to one before. I don't know if I'm going to be able to come. Yeah, I hope I am. But obviously there's 6 tracks. Is that right? How it works? And then because I can see so many ones. I'm thinking that looks good and that looks good, and I'd love to do that. But obviously, how do you? I mean, I know it's going to come down to yourself as to which one you decide you want to go on, but is there any more information other than I can see the recommended reading and things like that? Is there any conversations going on around each of the tracks or something?
So we don't have conversations going on around the tracks, but what you can do is you can always reach out to the instructor themselves and ask them about the track. The instructors are totally available for that. The other thing is to just sign up for Sherry's because it's going to be amazing. She taught this track actually in the summer in Fredericksburg, and it was amazing. I actually kept walking by her room thinking, I want to be in there. But then the other thing that I tell people is you just have to plan on coming year after year, event after event, to take advantage of all of them.
That's great, thank you. Yeah, I want to go to them all. That's the trouble.
Yeah, and actually it's interesting because we actually hear from teachers every year. Teachers every year are like, I don't want to be teaching. I want to be in that course over there. Of course, if no one was teaching, there wouldn't be any courses. But yeah, the desire to actually participate is really great on the part of teachers.
I agree with that. I was the organizer once and the teacher once, and I want to be just sit there in someone else's track. Autumn, there was a question on the blog that you saw from Lorna, right?
Yes. So we did get a comment on the blog from Lorna Campbell, and she says, sorry, I can't attend this session, meaning the session we're in right now. But I'd love to know whether it will be possible to participate in Digital Pedagogy Lab UK remotely.
So once again, the pedagogy of the lab is very much, and we recognize the irony that we are a digital pedagogy lab and we are not an online conference. But we really value what can happen in face-to-face spaces, and the kind of intense connection that can be had in those face-to-face spaces is really important to what we do at the lab. So we don't do a lot of virtual stuff. We don't do a lot of online stuff at the lab. That said, Virtually Connecting is a partner this year. And so we are planning on doing as much virtually connecting as we possibly can in those 3 days. We're going to be setting up a special space for Virtually Connecting to have, and we will do as much as we possibly can during that time. Keynotes are live streamed, so there will be, and our keynotes are amazing this year. We have Audrey Waters keynoting. There's 2 t-shirts from Audrey Waters in this meeting, and that's amazing. And so we have Audrey Waters keynoting on Monday of that week, and Amy Collier and Jen Ross co-keynoting on that Wednesday. So the keynotes will be live streamed. They'll be incredible. We are in the process. Digital Pedagogy Lab is in the process right now of figuring out how to bring what we do into an online space, so that we would have an online version of our conference every year as well. But that's in development at this point. It's not, we don't have dates yet or anything like that. My hope is to launch that in 2021. That's my hope. So we will work that way. But the lab itself is committed to being an on-ground, face-to-face kind of environment.
And that's awesome news. Go ahead, Sheila.
Really exciting.
Oh, sorry, no.
Really excited about that.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. And thank you for all the clarification about the expectations. I suppose you've clarified a few questions, and I'm a bit like Debbie. I think I have signed up for one track, but I really want to go to them all. But excited that I can go to one anyway, and also I'll be there as a virtually connecting buddy. This is quite a different experience, I think, for most people in terms of their professional development. So I was wondering, just asking all of you that have been there before, if I had to convince, I'm in a lucky position that I don't have to convince anybody, I just had to convince myself, which took about, a millisecond. But if you had to convince a manager to give you the time and the funds to go to Digital Pedagogy Lab, what would you say? And I know you kind of, Autumn, you alluded to quite a lot of that earlier, but are there any other things that you think that would really help kind of sway a decision to let someone go to your conference that's not, it's a lab, it's a very different thing. It's not an academic conference. You don't have to present a paper. It's very much about development. And I know all the good things that come out of it, but how would you help people sell it to other people?
I'll jump back in just because I feel like I've been in that position quite a bit, actually. I've been at 3 different institutions over the last 2 years because I worked in the same place for about a decade, and then I made a move to another place where I stayed for about a year and a half, and now I'm in a new institution, right? So over the last 2 years, 3 different institutions, not that I was jumping around a lot. I really focus on the community aspect and being able to hear from these different institutions. So, I mean, of course, I point out the keynote speakers, and of course, I point out, the workshop leaders and the expertise that's in the room. But I also like to dive in and take a look at who else is going to be attending. Like Sean was saying, you're really given the opportunity to bring so much to the lab. and really communicate with people from other institutions, you're given that space. Whereas, virtually connecting, a lot of times we talk about the hallway conversation, that's the best part of the conference. I feel like Digital Pedagogy Lab has found a way to allow space for that and taken it out of the hallway and actually given it like its own space to allow people to have these conversations inside the tracks. I mean, of course, the hallway is still there and you end up having the cross connections that happen there as well, but really being able to dig in those tracks. I feel like a regular conference sometimes is so disjointed, right? You get all of these, everybody's an expert, everybody gets their, 50 minutes or 20 minutes on stage, but you just end up kind of hitting a bunch of them over and over and over again. Whereas here you get to really build a relationship with a cohort of people over a 3-day or a 5-day, if you come to the US, right, kind of period of time, to really be able to dig in with people, get to know people, and build those relationships. I mean, I've never had anything else like it. I think that's really unique.
But how did you convince your institution to send 5 people? I don't think they would like to send 5 people from. Did you do that once, right?
And that really goes back to the project that they were doing together. Mm-hmm. I convinced that one time that I was able to get a whole group to come, it was because they were working on a big project together. And, I basically said, hey, we're talking about this together, but wouldn't it be great if we had outside perspectives? And if we do this thing together, I mean, first of all, there's just something that happens when you travel as a group together that solidifies, right? But then if we could sort of approach this lab in terms of, we're going to travel there together, we're going to think about our one project, and we're going to kind of think about how we're going to align these different tracks with our project and then come together. That time, so I've advocated to go to the Digital Pedagogy Lab myself, and I've advocated to take a group to Digital Pedagogy Lab. Those are 2 different things. But yeah, I do think that the lab has great opportunities for those instances, whether you're traveling individually or if you're coming with a group. And Sean, is there anything special for groups?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a special rate for groups. There's always a special rate for groups at every DPL, and we've actually found that more and more of our audience is becoming groups of people coming from institutions. I do want to throw in there, just in terms of if anyone's having a hard time getting their institution to support going to DPL, and I can understand why. It's a very different kind of conference. Most people don't present there. They're there for a learning experience. But I will do anything that I can on behalf of folks to make that easier. I have been known to give someone a slot for presentation if they needed it, so that they could get funding. I've been known to write to their chair or whomever to say, this is what they'll get from this event, and this is what you can expect, so that they understand the event more fully. I feel really strongly that it's an important learning experience for people who are interested in critical pedagogy and critical digital pedagogy, and it is really, really unique. And the ways that it pays off go way beyond when the event happens, because of the people you connect with, and this is one of the reasons, actually, and just to plug once again, Virtually Connecting support for the event this year, or next year. I feel like this community in particular is really set up to enjoy DPL, because then when they leave, they've got this still. And they remain connected to an entire community of dialogue that Virtually Connecting has started. So there's a lot of support once you leave the lab, if you're also connected to Virtually Connecting. So just to say, but that's actually part of what DPL represents is the attempt to connect people to one another. We have so many people who come to the event and say, oh my gosh, I found my people. I didn't know these people existed. I didn't know I wasn't alone. And it really is a sort of wide awake moment for people to realize, oh, there's all this that's possible. And then they stay connected to each other. And places like communities like Virtually Connecting help that happen. We also have a hashtag on Twitter, DigPed hashtag on Twitter, that you can also use to stay connected to the community. But people find ways. And so I also try to let people know when I'm working with them that it's not just the event that's going to benefit you as a faculty member, as a staff member, as a librarian, whatever. It's actually what's going to happen after the event and the people you're going to stay connected to over time.
I agree with that. That's one of the best things about it, I think. And I was just going back to the original question that Sheila asked because I had to write a grant to get Virtually Connecting here in Cairo. And I think one of the key things about Digital Pedagogy Lab, did I say Virtually Connecting? I meant Digital Pedagogy Lab. To bring Digital Pedagogy Lab to Cairo, one of the things about it is, yes, there's the emphasis on critical digital pedagogy theory-wise, but it's actually really accessible theory to people who are not academics and who are not people who study this kind of thing. It's not like when you read Paulo Freire or Henry Giroux, that is not accessible stuff. But the way Digital Pedagogy Lab does it is accessible and it relates it. And then if you're one of those few people in your institution who's critical of educational technology, you probably feel very marginal or dissenting or something weird at your institution. It's that kind of space where you can have those critical conversations and not feel weird. That's why you feel like you found your people. But for your institution to be convinced of that, I think one of the elements of it is to be thoughtful about how you're going to use technology, I think is one of the things that a lot of times institutions go ahead and use things and they don't think about why am I using this, why am I not using that, what kind of ethical issues happen with things. And Digital Pedagogy Lab is a space where you get to have lots of these conversations, but also learn from other practitioners about how they do it and how they think about it, which may not have a tangible takeaway immediately, but a lot of times changes the way you can go back and do things at your institution, changes the way you see things.
Maha, I want to add to that. One of the things about attending, and especially if you're feeling challenged to sort of to convince yourself or to say, oh, I don't know if I don't know if I have the oomph to go argue or advocate for myself that I need to do this. I really think we need to think about not only what we get, but what we give, because DPL doesn't work without you, without your participation. And so when you show up, you were already bringing a huge gift, right? The way that you are able to engage and be with these people for the 3 days, the way that you're able to dig into a topic and ask the questions, that is what creates the value. And I think it's almost counterintuitive because we're so, we think about learning outcomes and what will this get me and well, I mean, obviously our institutions, right, have us conditioned to think in those terms, but really it's about what you give, what you offer, and that is absolutely vital to making it the event that it is, that it isn't anything without you arriving and being able to say, oh, I'm here. So I want to really emphasize that because I think it's something that may get lost.
I love that point so much, Sherry. And I think that is really, really important, that by creating this kind of environment where we can all learn from each other, it's definitely not just about what you're going to get when you go to the lab, but what you're going to be able to give. And in a really unique environment, right? In an environment, I think you can give just as much in more of a community spirit than like what you would do. I've given a workshop at DPL before. I've never been a faculty member, not that the faculty and the workshop leaders and the keynotes aren't, giving in different ways as well, but even just in attending, you're giving so much.
You guys are making me all misty.
I wonder if other folks have questions. I mean, I don't want to. I mean, if you left the rest of us who'd been to DPL to talk anymore, Sean is going to break down and cry.
Well, you've all got me convinced. Not that I really needed much convincing, but I think that those really important points about giving and recognition of people's expertise is being so undervalued just now, and I think that's across, you know, different contexts and different countries. I think it's something that just seems to be happening just now. Well, perhaps more in the global north. So I think that's quite refreshing. I also think in terms of kind of more the cultural context of professional development in the UK, that there's a lot of links that could be made there, and a lot of ways that people could help people reflect on their own practice. So again, just putting my ALT, Association of Learning Technology, hat on for a minute, you know, things like CMALT, which is all about reflecting on your professional practice. I could see how rich that, you know, participating in digital pedagogy could be, again, for fellowship with the Higher Education Academy. There's lots of things that are there, and actually, you know, same for participating in Virtually Connecting. I think that kind of sharing practice and giving, yeah, just giving ourselves to our community is so important. So I think that that's a really important point, and we all need to be giving that message out as much as we can as well.
Sheila, are you saying, so I can't remember how CMALT works exactly. I know it's like a portfolio certification on learning technology. Would attending DPL count towards that?
Well, I can hand over to Debbie for the precise answer. It wouldn't be like a tick exercise, because it's a portfolio, so it's not a tick box.
Yeah, exercise. I know. So it's whatever you do for your professional development and you reflect on it.
But the key thing is how you reflect on your professional development. So I can imagine that somebody maybe goes to the lab, meets some people, has some ideas about how they're doing something, maybe tries, when they go back, they try and change that, then they can describe that as part of the portfolio process. So I think it would be really something, you know, a really tangible thing that people could use in terms of reflecting on their practice, because I suppose this is, a lot of people aren't very good at reflecting on what they do, and I think probably another key thing that the Digital Pedagogy Lab gives people is that space for reflection with like-minded people. And that's really, really important. And I think in any kind of reflective exercise, I think we can all be a bit kind of shy and we just do what we do. And sometimes we don't actually think about how innovative or how meaningful or how impactful what we actually do is. And we need sometimes to have someone with an objective eye to kind of say, well, I've never thought about doing that. Or telling you, hey, I did this and this happened. And it could be slightly different from what happened in your context, but could really make an impact on their practice. So I think there's lots of things there that would be a really rich thing for people as well.
I want to share just a short thing about this summer. When I was leading digital identity and on my track, and Bonnie Stewart was doing digital scholarship, right? That was it, I think. And she said, you know, could we maybe bring our tracks together to do something? And I said, I'm sure we could. So we did. So we brought our tracks together, and this is that emergent piece, right? Because hadn't planned to do that, but we got together, we talked about, okay, what things they're reading, what they're reading. We said, and it really took us actually very little time to agree on, oh, this is absolutely relevant. So we ended up doing a combined session on risks and rewards of online public scholarship. And so we did a reading with the group, and we had a structure that allowed, you know, all of the voices to come into the room. And for me, that experience of being able to share with a colleague who's, you know, my field is, I teach physical education to elementary students. So I'm from K-12, I'm doing something completely different. And so to be able to get together with Bonnie Stewart, I mean, like Bonnie Stewart, right? And share that learning with her group and bring it was just phenomenal. And the fact that was a possibility, be encouraged, And 3, an absolutely huge success. That was one of the things that, in terms of feedback, that participants said, oh man, that was great. That was great. And it was so great because the participants in those 2 tracks had so much to share with each other. It wasn't about Sherry and Bonnie. It was about what those participants had to share with each other that made the difference. So again, I can't emphasize enough how vital it is that there's this flexibility, there's this openness, there's that capacity to create space for something new that we didn't see coming, but is absolutely there. It's present. Okay, so let's use that energy.
I want to respond to Amy's question that she asked a while ago about still justifying and coming up with objectives, where she doesn't want to come up with them on her own. She wants something to start with. I would say some tracks lend themselves to that a little bit easier than others. So I was just looking at the track descriptions, and I was thinking, for example, the one that's called Critical Pedagogy and Online Design. And I don't know, by the way, if you told us what your role is at your institution. Are you like an academic developer, or are you a teacher yourself? But I'm an academic developer and I teach, but mainly an academic developer. So for me, for example, something like Critical Pedagogy and Online Design, then you would come back with something to your institution where either you might give a workshop based on what you learned there, you could change the way your department supports other people in designing their online courses, things like that. And then, for example, the one Catherine Cronin is doing about opening education, I would say, yeah, if your institution is interested in moving in, into open education and you don't know what that is, then that would be a way to bring that knowledge back to your institution. So Amy says she's an external online learning consultant. So she's not an institution, but she works with institutions. Okay. But that's kind of a tricky space to be in. I don't know what would be most useful for you. I guess, I can't assume, but I imagine that it depends on what areas of these different things are the ones that you feel like you need professional development in. You know, is it something like, I have, for example, some of my colleagues who, when they help someone design online courses, they don't have enough ideas about assessment. They're very fixed on 2 or 3 ways of doing assessment and they can't think of others. So the reimagining assessment sounds like a good one for them. But I think, yeah, it depends on where you're at and which of these areas you feel like you already know a lot about, which ones you don't. That will make a difference. And which ones you can imagine a certain outcome for yourself, like whatever the facilitators who's got there in the description, you could probably extrapolate possible outcomes from it. And I don't think you need to worry about not meeting them. You can help make that happen in your session by the way that you respond to the facilitator. And you can talk to the facilitator on the side, and you can talk to participants on the side. I mean, the networking also that happens in the evenings over dinner, that happens too. And you can build networks. So if you're an online learning consultant, you work with different institutions, there's an opportunity to meet a lot of people who might be your clients, I think. So,
well,
I would also like to just, I'm sorry, I'd like to just jump in and just say too that the lab really operates on a sort of, we've used the word emergent before in this conversation, but also sort of an imaginative basis. So we really don't limit possibility for a single course. So for example, if someone signed up for or wanted to sign up for Critical Pedagogy and Online Design with me, and they said, I really need to make sure that I'm touching these things during those 3 days, reach out to me, let me know that, and cool, I'll make sure we touch on those things. And that's because we keep the courses small enough that kind of flexibility is possible. So we don't have a huge course where all of a sudden we're teaching just to the lowest common denominator and we're having to hit just major points. Instead, we can actually work with individual needs in the course of that 3 days or 5 days if it's the summer. So that all of that is totally possible. It really just takes reaching out and saying, this is what I need. What if I need this? What if I need that? Can I get these things from the event? And then we try to be imaginative enough to provide those things.
And I'll just also emphasize the opportunity, kind of pulling off of what Meha was saying about being able to potentially meet, people that would be your clients or talk to people who are at institutions. I think at a regular conference, right? You maybe get a little taste here and there because of course you'd be bumping into people and you'd be maybe taking a session with somebody and you'd get to talk to them a little bit. But at Digital Pedagogy Lab, you're going to spend 3 days with these people, right? You're going to really get to know them. You're going to be in conversation with them. Yeah, you're going to take off and go to a keynote for a minute, but then you come back to your cohort. And then of course you're going to take off and go to a workshop, but then you come back to that same cohort. And so you really just kind of get to know people in a way that's much deeper than you get at other conference experiences.
Rosemary was asking about the size of the course groups, Sean. Are they like what, 20, 25?
Yeah, they're right around 20. And then the one right now, the one that Lucy Ray is teaching about emotion is capped at 10. Because it's going to be really, I think there's going to be a lot of writing involved and sort of personal reflection and that kind of thing. So it's actually much better to be a smaller, more intimate group. So we do try to keep that sort of thing in mind. Right now, all of them are at 20, I think, and then just that one is at 10.
And when you go to register, you'll find out how many spaces are left in each one. And so I remember that emotion one was always like that. I'm like, oh, that one went fast. And then now you tell me it was capped at 10. So that's why there are not a lot of spaces left.
Right.
That's why I was asking to know how soon I need to rush into getting signed up. So thank you.
Okay, we're closing in on an hour. So we have like 3 minutes left. Does anyone have any other questions? Obviously, you can email or tweet to Sean anytime. But if there are any other questions that you think you have that maybe other people would benefit from, you can ask them now.
Can I ask Sherry to maybe dig in on her digital identity track a little bit more, maybe reflect on some of the readings? I know Sean said like design that first class. Have you, how far along are you?
That's a great question. Coming off the summer, which was 5 days, which I also was wondering about, like, oh, five days, like it's a lot of time in the track. So 3 days feels like, oh, wow, how could I possibly? Now, for me, as I said, we begin with questions. So I use a particular technique, which is called I don't know, it's called the question formulation technique. That's it. And so that's a process in and of itself. And so with that, we do that process, see where we end up. Sort of like, cooking spaghetti, like you throw it on the wall and see if it sticks. If it's ready, okay, it's ready. If it's not, then you keep boiling. So we have that beginning, but then I like to send people on a walk for a reflection. So we have 4 prompts, and there's a particular structure, and that actual movement in conversation tends to be quite generative for folks, and also a little different. Like, what, you're going to let me leave the room? No, I'm saying you need to leave the room, and I'm suggesting that you actually go move your body while you're doing that. And then we come back with those reflections and see, well, where are we now? What's happened with our understanding? And in terms of digital identity, the biggest issue we had this summer was, what are we talking about? Whose definition? So that was, so I find that it's, I could tell you what I think is going to happen, but that doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. So, and the readings are there as touchstones. What comes up for you, and what do you make of this? How does this apply to you? How does this not apply? So we had some very rich conversations. And for my group, I suspect in the UK, what we'll try to do is I envision having participants also create something in the end to be shared with the group. So it's almost like creating a potluck.
In Kevin Gannon's track last year on inclusive teaching, they came up with their own inclusive design or inclusive teaching manifestos, right?
Which are fabulous.
I remember seeing those on Twitter.
Yes.
Yes. And I just wanted to say something. Sherry guest spoke for my class a few years ago when she was in Cairo. And in 1 hour, 15 minutes, she managed to get students dancing. She managed to do 3 different activities with them that we kept talking about for the rest of the semester. So imagine if you can get Sherry for 3 days.
Yeah, seriously.
Thank you, Maha.
She is amazing. She is amazing. So don't even think about any other courses. Just sign up for Sherry.
Okay, and on that note, anybody, Sean, do you want to say anything to end the session?
I actually, mostly, I really want to thank everybody for coming and showing up, and actually really thank Virtually Connecting for their support of the UK event, and hopefully future events we'll talk. But I also want to, I just want to take a snapshot of everyone here, and say this is very much Virtually Connecting and DPL run in the same vein, and very much what you're seeing on screen here is what you see there. There's a lot of different people. There's a lot of different voices. There's a lot of ideas represented. There's great dialogue, lots of good questions. All of it is there at DPL, and so I just feel like the two, Virtually Connecting and DPL, are a match in a lot of ways, and so if you enjoy what Virtually Connecting provides, you're going to like what DPL provides, and vice versa. So I'm very excited. I'm really looking forward to this event, and I hope to see people there.
Okay, thank you, Sean, and thank you, everybody. I'm gonna go off the internet, but we're gonna stay here for 5 more minutes, and my kid wants to say hi to some people, so please stay after we go off. All right, I'm gonna stop the live stream. Thank you for joining.